Hi guys, your boy Freelancer here. So today I want to talk about one of my favorite Wu albums of all time and one of my favorite albums of the 90s, and that is Only Built for Cuban Linx. The reason why I'm talking about this album, it was 25th anniversary last weekend. I think it was on the 31st of July. And also want to mention why I love this album, what I think is great about this album, and how important it is and how influential it is within this genre. So firstly, I want to say with this album, I got into it around 2013, 2014. I think like with all Wu-Tang albums, I think I got into 36 Chambers first. One of my friends put me onto it, and even though I liked that, I wasn't entirely click with it at first. But I watched a Needle Drop review of it, which kind of broke it down for me, and I kind of like, okay, so I went back to it, and it grew with me, and I now think it's a fantastic album. And for the Needle Drop review, also checked out the other albums that I recommended, such as Raekwon's this album, Liquid Swords, Supreme Clyde Selfish Scale from Ghostface, and Ghostface in general, to Kyle, and a couple of really good albums in the Wu-Tang Clan catalog, and yeah, so this album to me is really good. It's really great, fantastic album. And the first thing I want to talk about with regards to this album in particular is the production. Now, the thing I love about the production from this album and from the RZA in general is how he takes two samples and two ideas, musical ideas, that seem on paper like completely different from each other, like different keys, different tempos, completely different melodies, musical ideas, right? And he puts them together, maybe like pitch shifts it slightly, but he puts them together and make it seem like they fit in the glove of each other. So a great example of this would be in Criminology, where he takes the chimes from Why Marry from The Sweet Inspirations, and he takes the horns from Black Ivory's I Keep Asking No Questions, right? And the transition between these two samples from like the verse to not a chorus, but kind of like a chorus, the verse between the interludes and between verses, and he makes these transitions seem so seamless, like it fits in a glove, like it's such a creative, interesting way, and he does it throughout the whole album. He did it on Ice Cream, for example, with the two samples. A Time for Love by Clue, the guitar. At first I thought it was the piano, but it turns out the guitar. The like really soft, like melodic guitar with the vocals from I think it's The Breakdown by Rufus Thomas, right? And again, these two things, they shouldn't work, but they do, and they work perfectly. And this is one reason why I love hip hop, because hip hop takes the best things from all sorts of genres. As I said, even with like Clubs Casino, like I mentioned yesterday, with taking like ambient music and takes the best of all these genres, especially from soul and funk and jazz, and merges it together. And RZA is just a prime example of what I mean, because he's doing this, merging it together and making it seem like it always was like that. These tracks were destined to be put together, and it's just brilliant, and it's absolutely fantastic, and it works really well with the content as well, and I'll go into that in a bit, but it really works well with the content of what Raekwon saying and the other Wu members are saying, and of course Nas. And other great notable samples would be the Killer soundtrack. I think the Killer from the year 1989 Hong Kong film, and like so many songs like Wu Gambino, I believe it's Incarcerated Scarface's Rainy Days, all sample their soundtrack. And again, it's like a kung fu movie from '89 being used like multiple times on this album, and it's all done really, really well. And I cannot overstate how brilliant the sampling is on this album, or understate how brilliant the sampling is on this album. Now, and on top of that as well, there aren't that many like singing choruses in this, because a lot of the choruses are just like interludes, or or Raekwon doing this, doing a like on Incarcerated Scarfaces, like like a rapping type chorus, and they're all great as well. I like to mention that all the choruses are great. But even the ones where there's like singing on it, because sometimes a song can be like, the singing on this song is just to pander to to women or to a more casual type audience. But the singing from Blue Raspberry, she killed it, man. She killed it on the song she was doing. She killed it on on the choruses that she did, like on Rainy Days and on I forgot the one top of my head. But the point is, she was a brilliant singer, and she did an absolutely fantastic job. And she added soul to it. She didn't like detract. She added to the song that she was on, and that's brilliant. And on top of that as well, another great sample to me was the "Do Your Thing" sample by Isaac Hayes. Is it Isaac Hayes? I'm gonna make sure I get their name right, guys. Isaac. Yeah, I think it's Isaac Hayes or Hages on Guillotine Swords. Like that sample is brilliant. I think it samples officially it says on the track listing it samples Takal from Method Man, the song off the album Takal. But when I was reading into it, it looks more like it sampled Isaac Hayes, right? And yeah, and this sample is brilliant. The way it's looped in that, it's just such creatively done. And that's what I love about the production of this album. It's such a phenomenal, unique, and mind-boggling. Yeah, so now I'm going to talk about Raekwon and his bars, his vocal style, and other factors as well as the guest features on here too. So one of the things I love about Raekwon, I love his vocals. I love the way he sounds on these beats. I love his like raspy voice, his laid back but kind of aggressive attitude. You know what I mean? Like he's very calculated. Like you listen to him rapping, he's rapping like he's like thinking things through in his mind at all times, and that's what I like about the way he raps, because it reflects the content perfectly. It reflects his mafioso persona that he displays throughout this whole album perfectly, and it's really well. And it works really well. And the other thing as well with this content and with his vocal style is, on top of that, he has really great bars, but they're not just great like a Nas or someone along those lines, but just in your face. It's kind of like you have to think about it for a second, and you're like, oh wait, that kind of makes sense, because on first listen, it sounds kind of like random and kind of nonsensical. But when you think about it, like, oh wait, that kind of makes sense. Like, for example, give you an example. On Knuckleheads, he says, pulling nines on UFOs, taking the fly clothes, say eyes closed, right? You hear that and you're like, it's something like, oh, I love it. Then you think about it, like, all right, so the people, UFOs, unidentified flying objects, people coming into his hood or someone like that. He's robbing them for their fly clothes and the eyes closed. They never saw who did it. And that's what I love about it, and that's what I love when you really think it. He's like, he's thinking it through, and like he's actually doing it, and that's what I love about it. He makes you feel like he's planning these crimes and these deeds out, and that's what I love about it. And on top of that, there are so many just great bars, from him and from other rappers. I'll go over a few right now with you, like on like on a Guillotine, on Swords, when Inspector Deck said, run fast, here comes a verbal assaulter, and when Ghostface said on a like pretty much the whole of Guillotines is just a massive just quote fest. That song is just brilliant lyrically and production wise, of course, as well. And I love the bit where Ghostface like, the wildlife that kills the ice trap, like by the ditches, gorillas injected with the strength of 80 midgets, like. It's so good, man. That song, man, it's so good. Especially Ghostface Inspector that, man. They killed that shit, man. And obviously Raekwon did great too, but like those two verses, man, like so many quotables. On Criminology, like just this whole section where Ghostface is like, the ninth chamber leave you trapped by my hallway. You try to flee, but you got smoked up by the doorway. What's it now? Send your ass back to the essence. Your frame is all smothered in dirt, that how you resting, you know what I mean? Like, just brilliant, man. I just love it so much. And obviously in Scarface is where Raekwon said, yo, they be folding like envelopes under pressure, like, it was Louis Ferrano on coke. Like, I would have heard of like, what? Then I read into it, and I'm like, oh man, Louis Ferrano fucked up big time when he did that coke for it. Oh, that's so good, man. And on Rainy Days, and other things as well. Like, there is really good content here as well. Like on Rainy Days, where he's laying down like the why doing his hustle mentality and like breaking it down. So like, even said it on Genius, like he's like breaking it down, or in interviews where he said he's breaking it down for so like when people like when his girlfriend or when women ask him what he's up to, and he's saying, look, I'm here trying to make money, you know what I mean? I'm really laying the hustler mentality down. And I think that's really great and creative, and he does it in a really great and creative way. And I like how Ghostface touches on that song as well. I love his verse, especially when he's talking about how record labels are screwing him over. Record labels are screwing him over because he's there waiting for his paycheck for royalties, and he's just not getting it. And he's like, what the hell? This is stupid, right? And I love that as well. And of course, Verbal Intercourse, man, like that's just a brilliant back and forth, or a brilliant song in general. Nas killed it with the whole, I unfold the scroll, plant seeds my stampede. I stamp, I unfold the scroll to stampede the globe. You know what I mean? Like what the fuck, you know? Like that's not for you, man. And crack sales bubble in like Woolworths in the project. You know, like oh man, like that whole thing. You know, it's just brilliant, man. I love it so much, man. And of course, was it? Oh, this and on Spot Rushes where just has great storytelling. Another song which just highlights the versatility of this album, the versatility of Raekwon as an artist, as a rapper, working with so much interesting production and obviously how great the features are. But on Spot Rushes, it's just him. It's a great storytelling track. I love the whole meet the black Lex Luthor. You know what I mean? Like I love that, man. It's so great, man. And on top of that, like I mentioned, the back and forth between Ghostface and Raekwon is just brilliant, especially on Heaven and Hell, where it's literally they're just changing, interchanging bars, and it's just brilliant, man. The lyrics on this album and the content and the rhymes, the way it sounds, it's just brilliant. So, and it works perfectly with the beats, and that's what I look for with hip hop. It's not just great rhymes or great beats. It's both. It's how they work with each other, or how great vocals at least and great beats work with each other. And this one's got not just great vocals, but fantastic rhymes, great storytelling. It's a full package, man. That's why I love this album so much. So now what I want to talk about is the influential impact this album had. And it's pretty important to talk about what inspired it, of course, so I'm going to mention this now. So you can clearly tell that the content of this album is inspired by like Cool G Rap and Big Daddy Kane. But what this album did is that it took what this is production style, like a bit more of like a cinematic vibe, with great skits as well, of course. Like with the Sharks, the Biter interlude, which is great, the skit, which is great, and very relevant what I'm gonna say now. And it kind of took all that and like merged it together. So it took the mafioso style, kind of laid out the framework, which was laid out by Cool G Rap, and it took Raekwon's rapping style, RZA's production, great skits, great ideas, merged them together into kind of like a semi-cinematic, cohesive album. And that's what I love about it. It's kind of got a cinematic vibe to it, and that's what I love about this album. And the influence is it cannot be understated how influential or overstated how influential this album is. When you're talking about albums like It Was Written, Reasonable Doubt, and even guys like Biggie Smalls' next album was definitely influenced by this one, which is funny because he takes shots at Wu-Tang Clan on that album as well and kicking the door. But yeah, like, and even with regards to Jay-Z, even he confirms this on the song A Star Is Born, where he gives Ray this album and just Wu-Tang in general, especially in this time frame, a standing ovation, right? And on top of that, guys like Rick Ross wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for albums like this, right? Especially this album, which inspired many albums I just mentioned. And on top of that, yeah, it's just such an important album to listen to for that alone. If you really want to get into hip hop, I highly recommend checking this album out. And obviously, 36 Chambers and Liquid Swords. And where this album stands to me, I would say this is within the Wu catalogue, is that this is probably my third favorite Wu-Tang album. I'm not too sure of the next two who would be number 1 and 2, but I'll say Liquid Swords and Supreme Clientele, in my opinion, get a slight edge over this one. 36 Chambers is at 4. I'm not too sure who will be at 5, but that's my top 4 if anyone's interested. That's how I would rate how I would rank the Wu-Tang catalog, in my opinion, with regards to those 4 albums. So yeah, so I'm massively impressed with this album. Great album, still holds up, still sounds brilliant, still sounds unique, still sounds rough, still sounds gully. Brilliant album, absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I'm thinking which album I'll do next week. I might do West Coast album because I haven't really tackled West Coast hip hop yet. Yeah, so I might do a Doggy Style or a Chronic or maybe a All Eyes on Me or a Tupac album. Maybe a Far Side album, Hieroglyphics, you never know. So yeah, or let me know in the comments on which album you want me to do next. Yeah, and yeah, this is an important album. Check it out. 25th anniversary last weekend. Yeah, and like if you like it, dislike it if you don't. Like my video if you like it, dislike it if you don't. Comment below. Subscribe. See you in a bit. Peace.